Most men are pessimistic right now, and on paper, they're not wrong. The cost of living is untethered from reality. Birth rates are falling off a cliff, and trust in every major institution, including our justice system, is at an all-time low. And you're told to stay positive, while the walls look thinner and thinner every single year. So let me say something that's gonna sound insane. This is the best possible time to be alive, not in spite of the chaos, but because of it. And if that statement irritates you, good, just stay with me, because you're watching something that isn't just a collapse, it's a redistribution, and redistribution is where empires quietly mint new leaders. So here's the myth you gotta get out of your head first of all. When an empire falls, everyone else falls with it. That's what we're told. But that's emotional, it's dramatic, and it's wrong. Systems fail, people adapt, structures crumble, talent migrates. When the Western Roman Empire dissolved, it looked apocalyptic, especially if you were inside of it. But did the world end? No. Urban elites who saw the shift repositioned into landowners, and then they became the new power brokers. Monastic orders preserved knowledge while bureaucrats rotted. Even merchants rerouted trades through new maritime networks. And then the nesters panicked and the growers expanded. See, when a massive tree falls in the forest, it's catastrophic for the creatures that are all clinging on its branches. But for the plants suffocating beneath the canopy, it's oxygen. And right now, the trunks of the West are cracking. And most men are still clinging to the branches. They're all waiting for stability. But stability is where gatekeepers thrive. Bureaucrats and dynasties thrive in stable environments. No matter how hard you try, you cannot disrupt a diamond, but you can disrupt liquid. And right now, the world is turning liquid. That's not a threat, that's leverage. And once in a lifetime, you get to see an opportunity like this. Here's a simple question for you to ponder. How hard is it to stand out when everything works? Think about it for just a second. When schools are solid, when jobs are steady, when currencies are stable, and when the culture is unified, it's nearly impossible. You're competing against millions of optimized people in a rigid control grid. Think of it like interconnected nodes. But when everything starts to decay and the standards drop, look around. The average man today is dopamine dependent, he's physically soft, he's mentally scattered, and he's addicted to outrage. All at the same time, he's terrified of discomfort. In a decaying culture, consistency can feel like brilliance. You don't need to be a genius to see this either. You need to be the man who does what he says and can focus for 4 hours in deep work a day, and then just stay fit, stay solvent, and keep building. In an era of madness, the same man looks supernatural. In an era of chaos, discipline is elite. So most men are doom scrolling right now, and they're fantasizing about the good old days. But you're gonna be stacking assets. Competition thins during decline, not because opportunity disappears, but because courage does. And when courage disappears, the vacuum forms, and nature dictates that vacuums must be filled. That's because nature hates empty space. Just look around me at this city right now. This is a perfect example. When institutions lose credibility, new institutions form. And when leaderships fail, new leaders arise. But here's the catch. The vacuum only rewards the prepared. Most men see instability and then they shrink. You need to see instability and expand. Pessimism sounds intelligent. Most high IQ people act pessimistic because of that. But anyone can point at a burning building and say, look, there's a fire. That doesn't take courage. Optimism requires risk, and not naive optimism. I'm talking about weaponized optimism, delusional optimism about your future and about your agency that we're all going into. If you believe the system is collapsing right now, you're doomed. Your brain's gonna shut off. You're gonna start conserving energy. You're gonna hesitate. You're gonna wait. But if you believe, even irrationally, that you will benefit from this chaos, your brain is gonna start hunting leverage. You're gonna see a market crash and you're not gonna panic. You're gonna see assets on sale for one time in a generation. You're gonna see cultural decay, and instead of complaining, you're gonna notice the hunger for structure. Institutions could fail all around you, and while everyone else is spiraling, you're gonna recognize the space that just opened up. It's a once in a lifetime opportunity, and it's the same world. Nothing magically changed. You just changed the lens that you're looking at the world with. And once that lens changes, then the outcome will for you as well. So let's think about this. Every major leap in history came from men who believed the future belonged to them, even when the evidence said otherwise. The pioneers didn't head west because everything back east was perfect. They left because it was crowded. Too many people were fighting over the same square inches. So they looked at uncertainty, and they looked at all the wild land and the frontiers, And they saw that there was no guarantees and there was risk, but instead of seeing that danger, they saw a margin, they saw a room. See, you're living in a frontier moment right now, especially with AI, but it's a structured one. Financial systems are shifting under your feet. Work is also being automated. Information isn't locked into ivory towers anymore, and gatekeepers are losing their grip. And yeah, I'll admit, it is terrifying at times. But if your plan was to blend in, clock in, and stay average, that's even more terrifying. But if your plan was to build something real, this is the greatest asymmetry of your lifetime, I guarantee it. Most men are arguing about whether the ship is sinking, but they're standing on the deck debating that while water creeps in around their boots. And here's the deeper question that no one's asking out there. What if this isn't just a sinking ship at all? What if it's the Ship of Theseus? You know the story. We replace one plank, then another. We swap out a sail. We reinforce a beam. We rip out the old wood and bolt in something new. And at some point, we have to ask, is this even the same ship anymore? Look around. Our money is not the same. The way we work isn't the same. Our institutions don't function the same. The culture in the West is definitely not the same. And we keep replacing pieces of the ship, but we tell ourselves it's still the original vessel. That's the illusion. And most of us are arguing about whether it's still the same, but instead we should be asking who's going to design what the ship becomes. So here's the real truth. The ship you grew on is already gone. You're standing on a vessel mid-transformation right now, and some boards are rotting. There's some bad stuff out there. Some are being replaced, it's being upgraded, and some are being ripped out entirely. We don't even need them anymore. And yes, water is getting in. I think we can all feel the cost of living going up. But there's asymmetry there. While most men obsess over saving the old ship, you should be studying the blueprint, because if every plank can be replaced, just like the Ship of Theseus, and if every beam can be swapped, then nothing is sacred. And that means everything is up for grabs right now. If the old hull weakens, someone else is going to build a stronger one. And if the captain fails, someone else is going to become that captain. If the sails tear, someone designs new ones. Civilization doesn't just sink, it transforms. And the question isn't whether the ship survives unchanged, because we all know it won't. The question is this: are you the man desperately patching holes in the old Ship of Theseus, or are you putting the work in to build the new ship that's being replaced? Are you the man quietly assembling the next vessel plank by plank while everyone else is arguing on the deck about what they lost? And if you zoom out far enough, and I mean like really zoom out, even thousands of years, empires rise and empires fall. Three things survive every single time. If you anchor yourself to these three things, you don't just survive decline, you're gonna learn to harness it. So the number one thing is faith. That's the fixed standard. When institutions lose credibility, men are going to drift into nihilism and depression. And nihilistic men are easy to control. So you need a code that does not move with the headlines. If it's spiritual or philosophical for you, they both point to the same core truths. And they both teach us that there's more to life than our bodies and the physical matter we see all around us. So calm men execute while panicked men react. And the difference is not just talent, it's intelligence. It's every resource and its internal stability. When the external world starts shaking, when headlines spike and markets swing and everyone around you is emotionally volatile, faith, whether that's spiritual or deeply rooted in a philosophical code, is going to keep you steady. It gives you a center that doesn't just move because the crowd does. And that steadiness is an anchor. It allows you to remain composed while everyone else spirals out of control. And that's going to be real power. Number two is your family. And you got to have a dynastic lens, whether you like it or not, because governments are temporary, but your bloodlines will outlast them. If you think like an individual, you're going to be fragile. But if you think like a dynasty, you become durable. So you need to stop making 12-month decisions and start making 120-year decisions. Make decisions long after you're gone from this earth. And this isn't just some abstract fantasy. Human beings have done this before. Think about the Abrahamic lines that have carried moral frameworks for thousands of years. Kingdoms rose and fell around them. Empires redrew maps. Languages evolved. Yet those lines endured. The same is true in Japan. Shinto shrines, they were rebuilt plank by plank every 20 years and have stood for over a millennium. I think about the samurai codes, and they became corporate disciplines now. Family registries stretch back for centuries. The structures persist, but each generation sees itself as a steward of a heritage, not just a consumer. And in China, Confucian ethics have shaped behavior for over 2,000 years. Dynasties have collapsed. Revolutions came and went. The worldview stayed embedded. That's what long-term thinking looks like. When you think like an individual, maybe 12 months feels urgent. You optimize for this quarter. When you think like a lineage, a bloodline, your urgency changes. You start asking different questions. Will this matter to my family 20 generations from now? Will this decision compound beyond my lifetime? And will my grandchildren thank me for this discipline? Empires measure time in decades. Civilizations measure time in centuries, and bloodlines measure time in generations. And once you anchor yourself into something that has already survived 1,000 years, you stop panicking over a depression or a recession that's going to happen in the next 10. You stop reacting to turbulence and you start positioning yourself for continuity. And the third point is your frontier. That's your personal quest. Civilizations start to decay when they go into defense mode, when all the energy shifts towards protecting or preserving what's left. That's usually the signal that the growth has stopped. That's stagnation. You can't live like that as a man. You have to stay on offense. That doesn't mean to be reckless. It means push forward. It means you're building, expanding, testing yourself. Every man needs a frontier to explore. Maybe it's your craft. Maybe it's your business. Maybe it's your body, your discipline, your standards. Or maybe it's the kind of community that you're trying to create. But there has to be something in front of you that stretches you to be your best self. Because when you're on a difficult mission, when you're chasing something that demands your full attention, you don't have much time left for despair. You're focused, you're all in, you're too engaged and too invested. Men without quests always lean towards entropy. They start to rot. They overthink, they complain, and they drift. Men on quests evolve. So even in decline, you have more leverage than a king had 300 years ago. It's important you remember that. You have global reach right now. I'm gonna post this video online and it can spread around the world. Anybody can watch it, even in remote places like the jungle with Starlink. We have insane technologies at our fingertips now that we take for granted. And then we have AI tools that are coming out that multiply our output. We have capital markets at our fingertips. One disciplined man today can outproduce entire engineering and sales skyscrapers from only 2005. Think about it, a big city like this, you look at a tall building full of people. With you and AI as a solo founder now, you can do the same output as an entire skyscraper of people. It feels like magic. And it's dramatic to say that, I know, but it's not darkness that's coming, it's pressure. And pressure doesn't just destroy things, it filters them. It exposes what's weak and it clarifies what's solid. When things get tight, the mediocre are gonna drift and the committed get sharper. Most men are gonna spend this decade complaining. They're gonna be debating, they're gonna be posting, they're gonna be waiting for someone to do something to make it stable. But a small minority are gonna be quietly building. And 30 years from now, those two groups will not even recognize each other's lives. Just imagine sitting across from your son one day and saying, yeah, 2020s were chaotic. Systems were breaking. People were truly afraid. And that's exactly when I built our empires. That's legacy. That's positioning. That's what real optimism looks like, not blind positivity or naivety, but a decision to act when other people freeze. You don't actually need the West to be stable. Stability protects incumbents. You need it to be fluid because fluid environments reward decisive people. So do not fear the coming storm. The wind isn't against you unless you refuse to use it. It can carry you if you know how to set your sails properly. And history is always redistributing power. It never stops. Where are the Medicis today? They've been replaced by new dynasties. The only real question is this: are you clinging to a branch that's cracking, or are you growing towards the light?